So for this channel, I am the research guy, and I'm always trying to keep us up on the new movies that are coming out. And I check every site that I can. I'm always frequently on upcominghorrormovies.com and many other places. I don't need to list them all. But today I got an email from Harkins, which is a theater out here in Arizona. And it said that there was this new movie called Latency that was out and in theaters. And when I clicked on it, it said it was in the horror genre. On IMDb, it is listed as action horror thriller. I definitely do not agree with that. There is a tiny bit of action for like seconds.
Yes, seconds.
This would more be a drama horror thriller.
Horror thriller, yeah.
So the action is absurd. But anyway, this shit came out of literally nowhere, and it was in theaters. Like, typically we don't get, like, when there's like a limited release, it's usually nowhere near us. But it just so happened to be at the theater right up the street from our house, so we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out. The trailer looked interesting enough. You know, it's not a premise we haven't seen before. The premise is this girl is a gamer. Mm-hmm. She's also an agoraphobic, which is kind of ironic since we just watched Copycat with Sigourney Weaver, where she's also agoraphobic. And she receives this new gaming model that attaches to your head. It connects with your brain, and it makes you fully connected.
Yes.
And of course, it's hard to differentiate between reality and the real world.
Yeah.
And when you put that headset on someone who already has mental issues, things can go horribly wrong. This movie stars Sasha Lush, who is like Luc Besson darling. She starred in the movie Anna that he made, as well as the Valerian film that he made. And in her character in this is named Hannah. So it was kind of funny. It was like, I know her from Anna. And when they first said her name, I thought it was Anna. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that'll be easy to remember. But it was Hannah. And then the only other person in this movie, for the most part, 99% of the film is just these two people, is her best friend, Jen. And it's played by an Instagram influencer named Alexis Wren.
Oh.
And she has... So this goes to what I want to say about this. This might be one of the worst marketed films of all time, because I've not heard a single person talking about it. I sent this trailer out and this announcement out to every YouTuber I knew. Like, what the hell, where'd this come from? Because the trailer looked like a competent actual film. It was in the theaters. And I'm like, have you guys, not one person had heard of this film? So I didn't know who Alexis Wren was. So when I looked them both up for this review, I found out she's some Instagram thing, or like a social media influencer. So I went to her Instagram. She has 18 million followers.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm looking through her Instagram. I went all the way from top to bottom.
There's nothing about this movie?
Not one mention of this film.
I wonder if she's like not happy with it then.
I don't know, but if you don't even have your stars promoting the film, and you're not promoting the film,
that's a huge audience.
She has 18 million followers.
Yeah.
You don't think that they came to her and were like, can you promote this on your Insta?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Weird.
I went to her videos, I went to her pictures, everything. There was nothing. So anyway, we should talk about the film.
Yeah. As far as the film goes, I definitely was interested when we saw like the 30 seconds of the trailer or whatever that I think both of us watched. I think it's a good concept. And there are parts of the film that I definitely liked, but I feel like overall I didn't like this movie. I feel like it was actually kind of a letdown. And so it's not surprising that it's not being promoted. But it's not like a terrible film. Like, I don't feel like it's something to be embarrassed about or to be like, oh my God, it's awful. It's subpar for sure. There's things that could have been done better and could have been, like, highlighted more. One of the big things that I personally didn't like with this film was the sound design. It might have been the theater, but I didn't like the soundtrack. I didn't like the music. I didn't like any of the sound, like, within the movie. Like, I feel like there was a lot of opportunities to play around with that, and I don't feel like it was used at all. And that's also that's the big thing, is that I think that the premise is cool, but I don't think it's nearly expanded upon enough. For what they're going for, there should have been a lot more happening. Like, a lot more of the unreliable narrator, the questioning of reality, and making the audience the questioner of reality too, especially, I think, is, like, paramount with this. I mean, if you look at the movie that does it probably the best is Inception. You know, and I think that this isn't the same film by any stretch, and it obviously has a different budget, but it has a pretty good budget because there's some CGI in here that looked really good to me. Yeah. So, I don't know, but, like, the acting I thought was fine. I liked the two girls. Like, I think that they're fine. But it's just, I think that this kind of came down to, like, a writing issue for me. I don't think that I think it's, underdeveloped is probably my best word to use.
Yeah, I thought Sasha was actually quite good in this. And I thought Alexis was good as well. Yeah. She's mostly just, like, the friend, because she's agoraphobic, Sasha's character here, and she's, like, the helpful friend who comes over and is, like, you know, pepping her up and keeping her sane. Yeah. So she does a good job with that. So it's not them. No. This is probably one of the worst utilizations of a premise I've seen in a while. The lack of creativity, the lack of, like, using your premise to its maximum potential is actually kind of staggering with this film, because there's so much you could do here. Yeah. And it's just rinse, lather, repeat over and over and over again with the same kind of shit going on. The horror in this it's there, but it's kind of, you know, seldom. Yeah. Like, you know, they play around with a little. This is mostly supposed to be more of a film that deals with, like, mental instability. Yeah. Which, oh my God, there's so many things that we touch upon within the film. Like, there's a little girl that lives in the apartment complex, and it's like, that really goes nowhere, right? Like, it kind of, like, you can figure out what that is, but for me, there's so much more you could do with that. Yeah. There's so much more with, like, her gaming. Yes. And with the people around her and her apartment and the, like, trapped feeling that she has of her place. And, you know, it would have been better had this film been a little more conventional and a little more predictable. I would have liked that more, because at least something would have been happening. Yeah, I mean, the three main things that the film has, agoraphobia, gaming, and augmented reality, are all things that can tie really well into each other, and I just feel like are super underutilized. Especially the gaming aspect. That was actually something I was very disappointed by. Yes. I think that was one of the things that was very interesting about the trailer, is, like, she's a gamer, and there's some shots in the trailer of her, like, fighting these monsters and stuff, and I was like, ooh, okay. And of course, when you bring in, like, augmented reality, like I was saying about her questioning, like, what's real and making us question what's real, would have been very, like, exciting and interesting to go down, and it's just not done whatsoever. No. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't really know why it wasn't. I think it's all there. Like, it's kind of a shame, because I think they had all this opportunity. Yeah, the pieces were there. Yeah, they just didn't put them together. Another thing too is that we watched, I don't know what place you shut the trailer off, because I sent it to you while you were at work, and I watched, the trailer wasn't even that long. And I watched only about half the trailer. And I'm telling you, just from the half of the trailer I watched, I wasn't even done with the footage that I knew until over an hour into this film.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what the rest of the trailer shows.
Yeah, it's
so it feels like it's one of the more spoilerific trailers I've watched. But that being said, there's not a whole lot that even really happens. So I guess it is kind of hard to make a trailer with a film that doesn't have a lot going on in it, and you're trying to make it enticing for people to go see. So that's kind of the film's fault in a lot of regards, because it's like, what do you want me to do to sell this film if there's nothing going on in the first 30 minutes? Am I supposed to sell something in that first 30 minutes? Like, I couldn't even imagine trying to make a trailer, because typically I always say your trailer should only, should mostly only be the first act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Right? But with this movie, I mean, you could just show that she gets the headset and that she's playing the game, and that's it. And but it wouldn't really bring much of the horror or any of that stuff into it, so it would be kind of a surprise. I don't know, but I find the trailer, from what I watched, to be way too spoilerific. And that was half of a small trailer.
Right.
So, yeah, bad marketing. Even the trailer that exists is bad. And then there's no other marketing. There's no other campaign to try to get anyone to go see this. We were literally the only two people in the theater, completely empty otherwise. We were talking out loud to each other about the movie, which was nice. But this was like a Thailand production. Like, they filmed this in Thailand. And so I think they kind of made it on the cheap, and were hoping to just throw this thing in theaters. This was a direct to VOD movie for me.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, I personally felt like the special effects in this weren't bad.
No, not at all.
I don't feel like it looked cheap.
Nope.
It's a single location, so that's definitely going to cut down on cost and everything. And there's only 2 actors, but. Yeah, it shouldn't have gone to theaters. It shouldn't have gotten a theatrical release with the amount of no marketing, with the no marketing that happened.
The biggest missed opportunity with this film for me is creating this sense of dread and urgency to her having to face her greatest fears, which is leaving the house.
Yeah, I agree.
They kind of touch on this a little bit. She does have to try to leave the house at some point, as one would expect. But it's the way that it's done where it doesn't seem like it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I mean, I get why you're doing it. I just don't think that's a good enough reason, because, I don't know, I can't really talk more without spoilers, but having the game concept and not utilizing that.
Yes.
Having the agoraphobic response to things and not also utilizing that.
Yeah.
Having a pretty competent actress. That being said, she's Russian, and I was remarking throughout the film how when we first meet her, she seems to have a pretty standard American accent, but then with maybe a hint of a Russian accent on it, but it's mostly very American sounding. But throughout the movie, there's pieces of the movie where she's full on Russian accent.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? I wonder if
pretty inconsistent.
She started the scenes where she's Russian is some of the first scenes they shot, and then she was working on it as the movie went on, and she was getting better at it, or in her heightened emotional state, she has a hard time hiding her accent.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really see the need for her to have an American accent either.
I don't know.
I feel like she could have just
the Russian accent the whole time.
And it's she doesn't have her accent's cute. It's not hard to understand her or anything. And she speaks English very clearly. So yeah, I think that there is some inconsistency there, but it wasn't too much to annoy me. But yeah, everything you were saying with the agoraphobia and stuff, I did not like the ending
no,
at all.
I don't know what the hell the ending even meant.
I do feel like it's just, again, just underutilized, and it sucks because agoraphobia is something that is not only fascinating, like for people I think who don't have it, but if you are somebody who can relate in any way, it's also really nice to see your fears depicted on screen, like in a competent way. And this just definitely did not do that at all. I think that it was a very lazy like attempt to just be like, she's agoraphobic, like let's have a few scenes of her being afraid to answer the door basically, and like, you know, whatever. And I just didn't appreciate that. But yeah, I think as far as like building the sense of like the atmosphere and everything was really lost in the film for me. Like I don't want to rag on it too much because I know we've already been kind of talking about it for a while, but and I already mentioned this, but the sound design I think is the big thing for me that ruins a lot of the atmosphere. I just think that the music is like, I just didn't like it. So I don't know. This is definitely one that you shouldn't go see in the theater. No, unfortunately.
If you watch the trailer and you're super into it, or you know, if you're a big fan of like Alexis Wren or you know, the Sasha Luss, they're both beautiful. I mean, they both are like fucking supermodels. So I can understand the desire to watch them in a movie, but this would definitely be a streaming film. It feels like a theatrical film while you're watching it. Like the production value's there. So it didn't feel like, how did this get in theaters? It's just a fairly incompetent film with its story and utilization of its plot. The last little interesting tidbit of information here before we go, I think you'll find this interesting. You wouldn't know it watching the movie because the only two actresses that you see in the film are the two actresses, and they seem like they're normal girls that are like petite, but both these girls are almost 6 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
That actually surprised me when I looked their bios up when I was going through it.
Well, you don't have any reference for like their height necessarily, because they're just, I wasn't really looking at them in relation to their environment either. Because usually I feel like you measure the height based on other people. So I mean, that kind of makes sense. They look like they would be tall. Yeah, they're both like 5'10". Which is it just surprised me when I looked at it. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the film. Just thought it was an interesting little piece of info there. But I can understand why this isn't being marketed, but why throw it in theaters? That's bizarre to me. Like the fact that this got a theater release and Last Stop in Yuma County didn't is pretty upsetting to me. I agree. You know, there's definitely films like No One Will Save You from No One Will Save You from last year not getting a theater release. Prey, the Predator film. You know, a lot of Hulu films that were really damn good, fresh. Not getting theater releases. But, you know, like you said, it's not a terrible film. It's a fine watch. This is the kind of VOD thing. This is something that, like, drops on Netflix out of nowhere. I watch it and I'm like, okay, chicks were hot. It was okay. It was watchable. Whatever. And you just forget about it. But driving out to the theater for this... this is a waste. For sure. 100%. Because it took us, it takes like 2.5 hours. To go see an hour and a half movie. All with together. The trailers and all that bullshit. So, anyway, and a 30 fucking minute spoiler-free review, I guess. I don't know how long this is, but we've been talking a while. So, not a recommendation. Unfortunately, I was really hoping. I was like, oh man, this could be like, a gem. I'm going to tell everybody to go see this thing. I was really excited. But nope. But that's the dice roll, right? That's how it goes. Sometimes you roll snake eyes. It is what it is. All right, if you guys watch this, let us know. If you even heard of this film, let us know. Seriously. That's what I want to know. Me Who too. Heard of this film before I reviewed it, or before we reviewed it? I'd love to know. Because not one single person that I've talked to yet even knew this movie existed. Crazy. And it came out today. So crazy. In theaters. Terrible marketing. All right, guys. Bye. Bye.